You're listening to Overwatch Contenders Daily, your path to daily news, scores, and insights into the Overwatch League stars of tomorrow. Here's your host, LemonKiwi.
Hey Overwatch fans, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Overwatch Contenders Daily. I'm your host, LemonKiwi. Today's episode is a very special player spotlight where you at home can recommend players from the Tier 2 or the Tier 3 scene so I can bring on and get to know their path to pro story. So, today's suggested player is Punk. He's an Offtank player for Team Darksided who are competing in Contenders Australia, and they're actually in the semifinals, so they're a pretty darn good team. And he's also the Offtank player for Team Australia who are competing in the Overwatch World Cup. So, I'll be bringing him on to talk about how he started competing in Overwatch. He's only 16, so how dealing with your parents is at that age trying to compete in video games, and how his Contenders team is preparing for the semifinal match, and how was the show match against Team Canada, and other fun things. But before we get into my interview with Punk, let's get into some quick Contenders news. In South America, playoff team Revolts has unfortunately dropped their entire Overwatch roster. There's no explanation on why this happened, but the players are going to continue to play under the Revolts name for the remainder of playoffs, and then they're going to rename themselves to Up Gaming after that. So good luck to those players on finding an org for the next season. Finally, in Contenders news, Isurus Gaming head coach John has left the team and is seeking opportunities in North America. So Isurus are also right in the middle of playoffs. Not a great time. There's not really 100% sure if John is staying with the team for playoffs and is leaving after that, or if he's really left the team and Isurus will have to figure themselves out for playoffs. So either way, good luck to John, good luck to Isurus Gaming. If you're interested in watching the South American playoffs, it's going on this weekend on the 25th and the 26th. Make sure you check out twitch.tv/broadcastgg or their Twitter to see when that schedule goes live. That's it for Contenders news. Now let's get into my interview with Punk from Team Darksided/Team Australia. And I'm joined here with Punk, Offtank player for Darksided, Offtank player for Team Australia, and you're doing pretty good, and you were suggested to come on to this show, so I'm very excited to know about your story. So how are you today, Punk?
I'm doing excellent. Just come off a rough defeat from Canada, but I'm doing
it wasn't that rough. It was not that rough. Game 5. Like, we both talked about how, I mean, these are mostly Overwatch League players. And, you know, Team Australia is always, like, the underrated region, you know, and you guys brought them to a Game 5, so that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I think we can go super competitive in this year's World Cup, so that was a good showing from us, I think.
That was a nice little rivalry to watch, but
yeah.
Let's start with your story now. You were recommended to come on for this player spotlight, so tell us about your story of how you started competing in Overwatch or in gaming in general, and how you got to where you are today.
Okay, so when I was about 12 years old, I think, I started playing CSGO, like, you know, everyone's played that game, and I got decent at it, and I started to watch like the CS Mage, and I was like, damn, that's really cool. So I tried to make it in there, I guess, but it just didn't work out. I think I was too young. So yeah, Overwatch came out then, played the open beta, super hooked, and then I didn't actually know about the competitive scene up until Season 4. So I just played matchmaking. I got 4.5k in Season 4, and I was like, okay, I want to see if there's a competitive side to this. So I looked around, got on my first team as like this nobody, I guess, which is how everyone starts. And then I played in that team with many roster changes, but for about a year now. And now we're going into Season 2 finals at LAN for Shining Contenders.
And you're on a pretty big name team for Australia, like Darksided. So obviously that wasn't your first team. So how did you sort of get onto a big team like Darksided?
So the original thing with Darksided was they were the top team at the time, Monopoly Club as they were called.
Oh.
And so they wanted to split up the team for reasons that I can't remember, but I think it was something to do with just the team having internal issues. But anyway, so half the team split, and they were looking for new people, and everyone in the scene at the time was taken or was like not playing, so they needed someone who wasn't like big named but was also, I guess, decent. So I somehow lucked my way onto that team, and then continued to play. I just got better gradually from consistent improvement, and yeah, many renditions of that team. So I think me and one of the person, Mooney, are only the two outstanding players from that original Dark-Sided roster.
So were you always an Offtank player, or did you start something else?
Yeah, I love playing Tracer. Back in the day, I thought it was really fun, but I was never that good at it. So, but I looked at my win rates on like Diva and Zaya, and they were just substantially better. I also had a lot of fun playing them, so I just continued with that.
So you're pretty young. I think you told me you were 16. So how was it like maybe convincing your parents about doing this for a career or on a professional level?
At first it was sort of weird because I came to them, like I told them about the esports stuff, and they were like, well, yeah, whatever. And then I got my first contract with Darkside, and I was like, okay, this is pretty serious. So I showed it to them. They were a bit skeptical, but in the end, they got on board as well. And right now they've continued to learn more about the game and want to learn more, which is really, really good, I think. And it makes it pretty easy.
When they're not fighting you to get off your computer at midnight because you're screaming over some scrim game or something. And is it difficult to... Oh, sorry, what?
They just understand a lot, like, for parents, I guess, in the esport world, which is really nice. I'm sure
all parents are like, what is an electronic sport?
Yeah.
And then they go and, like, watch it, and they're like, okay, you can make money off of this. And I'm sure the whole ninja stuff going around, they're like, oh, gamers. Yeah, I get
Fortnite, that's big.
Yeah. So is it difficult to balance like high school and playing? And I'm sure your parents probably want you to have a job. How do you balance that?
I've always been pretty consistent, I guess, with my school grades. Like, I haven't really dropped off since I started playing games or have been playing games. At school, I fully separate games from like my work pretty much and focus on school throughout the day, and then get home. I usually do a bit of homework if I have some, and then assignments or something. But then usually spend the other half of the day or half of the night playing Overwatch. So
as long as you don't yell through the house and annoy your parents. So yeah, you had just mentioned the Team Canada show match. So it still went to a game 5 that was really exciting to watch. So how were your overall feelings of how that matchup went, and what was interesting about Team Canada?
I think the interesting thing about Team Canada was, so I heard some things that they perhaps were changing their strats because of the ping, and like some of the players had the worst end of it with the ping. Like,
oh yeah, like 200 plus.
Yeah, like I think Shoreheffer had 260. That's why they subbed him out or something. But like all the players are super good, so I think we took it to them, which is really good on relatively even ping, I guess. But I think if we would have won, some credit would have been taken away just because of the ping. So I think it's a good result for us, honestly, I think.
For sure. And what did you guys think of like some of the strategies Canada was bringing out? I couldn't tell if they were experimenting or if this was like something they were taking seriously. Like you saw, was it Mangachu, I think, brought out the Torbjorn, and you had Symmetra on Junkertown. So what did you think of that?
I think they were mainly experimenting with like maybe just a pocket strat on Junkertown with that Symmetra. I think we did a good job of shutting that down though, which was nice.
For sure.
The Torb coming out was a bit of a surprise. Mangachu managed to hammer another one of our members, CCam, to death.
Oh no!
Another one to his belt. But I think those were just mainly pocket strats, but they did play a lot of hit scan, which might have been just due to the ping, because it's quite hard to like play projectile on ping. So
hard to play anything.
Yeah, it's a bit rough, but it's alright.
Speaking of your strategies, though, like now that Hammond's sort of in the meta and Sombra is pretty strong right now, you guys were experimenting a lot with Trill on Hammond and Huss on Sombra, which I remember Huss playing a ton of Sombra back in the Sombra days. So how does your strategy work with this particular composition?
Trill's picked up the Hammond really well. I think like he's one of the best right now. what we do with him is just mainly try to send him in, do what he does, and the rest of the team follows up. And the new Sombra changes that came out, infinite stealth, really benefits Sombra as well. And Huss has always been good as Sombra. Like they played Pacific Contenders with him on it pretty much all the time, and they came second in that. So he's always been really good at that. And I think just having the hack is a really good ability right now, and so is the MP. So I think paired with Hammond and like the space that he creates is just really good combo.
Yeah, it's awesome to see how you as the diva, and then you have Hammond. You guys are both sort of controlling the crowd, or crowd controlling with those tanks. And then you combine the EMP from Huss with like a Dragon Blade, a Nano Dragon Blade sometimes when you guys play Ana. So it's been really interesting to see how effective Hammond can really be, and then what tank is he usually paired with. And you guys seem to run with the diva. Could we see like variations of that?
I've seen and like heard of variations where the Offtank plays Hammond, but I don't think we've ever tried that. But just because I haven't really played much of the hero, just because we've had Troll on it. But I've played it sometimes with the DPS player on Hammond with a Monkey Diva, so I think you can play him in a lot of spots in different roles. But it's just you've got to adapt how you play with him, whichever role he's in. So.
I'm excited to see what sort of Hammond strategies your team and every other team is coming out with. Like, I've seen everything from solo tank Hammond, triple DPS, to like triple tank, the dive tanks, and I've seen like the whole goats with Hammond. Like, you've seen everything. I think everyone's trying to figure out how to work Hammond, and I think Jane and everyone was praising how Troll was one of the better Hammonds they've seen. Yeah,
he's like I said before, he's picked it up really well. He's probably like far ahead from most people, to be honest, on the hero. So it's really good to have that on the team.
Now we can work into, your World Cup side of things. So Team Australia will be in Bangkok for the qualifier on September 14th through 16th. And you'll be going up against teams like Thailand, China, Denmark, Spain, and Sweden. So who do you think will be Team Australia's biggest competition, and why?
I think obviously China and Sweden are the two powerhouses in that group from the outside, just on paper. And I think China, because their team play is really, really good together. Like, some of those teams have been together for years, like the likes of LGD, and like their mechanics are also really sharp. So I think China is the biggest threat in that group, even though Sweden might have like more Overwatch League players. Like as we still say in the Canada match, that Overwatch League players doesn't mean that you're gonna stomp everyone. So I think China's biggest competition right now, and then Sweden probably, just because of their mechanical skill and like the Overwatch League players, because they still do make a difference. I think Denmark maybe could be the dark horse of the group. Just because they have a lot of contenders players who are really skilled as well. But I think Australia will be able to. I think we can top our group, to be honest, if we just keep it going.
Keep it going, bring the Hammond, bring these weird strategies out, and you're totally right. Like, Overwatch League players, yes, they bring some kind of insight, being a professional player and all, but it's also that everyone's kind of starting from scratch. There's a lot of teams that have mixed players from all these different teams, and there's a lot of maybe teams that are at a disadvantage because Overwatch League players maybe don't have the most flexible schedule with whatever else is going on. And then you still have to communicate and build sort of a synergy within a team, within all these different players. So I know a lot of people like root for the Overwatch League, quote, teams, but there could be some upsets. And I think Team Australia have a real chance. I mean, you guys proved it by almost beating Team Canada, and those are a heavy favorite on the NA side.
Yeah, I think Team Canada right now are like top 4, top 5 in the world, so we had a really good result against them. And although it was a bit of a curse that it was the same as last year, as Australia got reverse swept at BlizzCon, so curse is still.
But it wasn't a reverse sweep here.
Yeah,
it was back and forth. I like how it was a sort of rivalry thing, because I had interviewed Team Canada about, I don't know, all this stuff, and I even interviewed, was it RQT or someone else, about this, and both of you guys were like, raw Australia, raw Canada. So it was totally awesome to see the show match, where it wasn't like hostile or anything. It was really fun to see you guys and
Yeah.
how you appreciated each other's talent, because I'm sure like the Canadian or the Team Canada had not really much idea of what your team could be made of in this meta. But let's go over to your contender side of things now. So in less than 2 weeks, your contenders team will face Order in the semifinals. By the way, you guys should check it out on August 31st or whatever time zone you're in. That might change. But what are the strengths and weaknesses of Order, and how do you think that match will go?
I think Order are a very good team when they want to be, I guess, because they have a lot of like not young children, but like I don't know, young up and coming players who, yeah, I guess. But these guys have been sticking together for like almost up to a year now, so they have super synergy with each other. But their mental game, I think, is lacking a bit, just because I guess maybe how young they are, and that could affect them in some way. But recently they got Atar, who was on the World Cup team last year but didn't make it this time. And I've heard that he is like a robot on land, so
Oh god.
yeah, he'll be quite scary, I think. So I think
Well, calling someone a bot can also be a compliment or not a compliment.
no,
you mean the good way.
This time. Yeah. I think a lot of it is about showing up on the day, of course, but also there is the side that you've got to play how you practice and play what you've worked on, because that's how you should play usually all the time.
So you think maybe if you start tilting them, or maybe if we're in a game 5, they'll start getting nervous, and that might kind of throw them off?
It's like we're playing in front of a crowd, which a pretty big crowd, I think, which could be the demise of some of them, or could like hype them up even more and play better. So I guess
we'll see what the crowd cheers for. I don't know who's
I'm
the
keen
favorite.
for that match, so yeah. I think any team in the top 4, or top 4 in Australian contenders right now can win. Like us, Darksided, Drop Bears, or Order, and maybe Kanga, but who knows? Can all have a chance at winning. So that's pretty exciting, I think.
Some pretty tight playoffs going on in your region, and that actually does bring me to my next question of, well, on the other side of the semifinals, it's Kanga or Kanga, NA pronunciation, by the way, versus Sydney Drop Bears, where they're like undefeated. They made history of never dropping a map or something like that. So there's a clear favorite in this match, but do you think Kanga have a chance of upsetting Sydney Drop Bears?
I think there's a chance, like a slim chance that they can do it, but Drop Bears have a really strong, like, talented lineup, and they've also got strong strategy, and their coach is pretty good, Face. So I think, they won last Contenders, and they're gonna look to do that again. But so I think the chance of them getting knocked out is not in the Kanga versus Drop Bears matchup, but whoever comes against them in the grand final, because I think Kanga came in as the underdog team. Just because they've never been to LAN before. Although they have been putting in the effort in, that I've heard. So, and it's worked for them. So maybe if they go hard for this last week and a half up until LAN, that they can maybe do it. But it's looking unlikely, I think. So
it's hard to bet against Sydney Drop Bears, especially with the regular season. But with the sort of playoff new meta coming in, I think it's thrown off everybody, where it's you never know what kind of upset can happen. You had on the NA side, like Fusion University, like same sort of undefeated team got brought to game 5 against Toronto, which is not the greatest team. So that's surprises can happen. I'm sure it could happen in your region, but obviously Sydney Drop Bears looks like they'll go to finals again. But the question is, so if you win your match and you go against Sydney Drop Bears, how do you think your team's going to do against them?
I think we win that matchup. Just because Tomo, one of our players, the DPS player, he's really good on LAN. Like he popped off last Contenders, and we almost won because of him. So I think he's got really solid on LAN, obviously, and I think we have a lot of good players as well. And so I think it'll be a really tight matchup, but I think we can just edge them off this time instead of going out against some last Contenders in the semis.
Well, I like the confidence there that if you make it, that you could take the match. So I'm sure there'll be some. Do you have any maybe pocket strats or like secret strats that you're saving just for the Bears?
I think we got a couple up our sleeves, so we'll have to see if those come out.
I'm so excited to see you. Well, let's start with you winning the semifinals, and then we'll see how you do in the grand finals. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself, but I mean, good luck in your World Cup stuff. Good luck in your contender stuff. Good luck in your future show matches against other World Cup teams. But thank you so much, Punk, for coming on for this interview.
All right, thank you guys. I'm just happy to be here. Happy to be on. Really good experience.
Glad to have you on to get to know your path to pro story. So thanks, guys. This was Overwatch Contenders Daily. I'm LemonKiwi. We're going to see you guys next week.